Hey, this is Don from Padlock Technologies again with another video. I know it's been a while. So before we get into what this video is going to be about, I'm going to tell you why it's been a while. So unfortunately, I have, or not unfortunately, but fortunately or unfortunately, depending on who you ask, I have picked up a new addictive hobby of vibe coding. So basically, I went down the rabbit hole, really started interacting with Claude Code and ChatGPT because I'm the type of person I can't see the value of something if I do not actually get to play with the technology. But now since I've been playing with AI through vibe coding, I'm starting to see the value of AI in certain instances and stuff like that. And I'm building something behind the scenes, and that has like completely shifted my focus from the network conversations to these AI conversations. So I will be doing a video on my journey into vibe coding and the coolness of that and how addictive it is. I'll probably be doing that in my next video. But this video is going to be about site-to-site VPNs on checkpoint firewalls. I got a question about that and could I do a video on that? So I made a little mini lab and I'm gonna go through the site-to-site VPN functionality and how to configure it on a checkpoint firewall. Remember, checkpoint is like the OG of firewalls. So if you know how to do things on a checkpoint, you can kind of figure out how to do things on Fortinet, how to do things on Palo Alto, how to do things on secure firewall, because they're pretty much the same from a theory concept. Now, before we get in this lab, you know I'm gonna ask you for a favor, right? If you haven't done it already, please don't forget to share, comment, like, and subscribe to the channel, especially when I start talking about this AI stuff, this vibe coding stuff. If you like tech like that, I am going to be explaining a lot of stuff at a deeper level. And if you like learning like that, you definitely want to follow and subscribe to this channel. And then tell a friend to tell a friend about the channel, help the channel grow. With that being said, let's get in the lab and let's go over this checkpoint. All right, so here's the lab. Pretty simple, right? So I have my management server up here. As you can see, it says CP for management. Could have named it something better, but I just put MT for management. We got checkpoint firewall 1, checkpoint firewall 2, and we have the internet. Now, this is technically a router behind the scenes, but I just changed the icon. Now, here's the thing here. I am not running I'm not splitting the data plane from the management plane, right? That is MSDP. Or is it? Yeah, it's MSDP environment on the checkpoint firewall, not to be confused with MSDP on Cisco, which is a multicast source distribution protocol. That is not what this is on checkpoint. For checkpoints, it's how you separate the data plane from the management plane. I am not doing that. Everything is all in one plane. I have my management server up here that I'm connecting to my management server or my checkpoint management server. This is just like a Windows box. And I'm managing these two checkpoints. And I'm just going to run a simple site-to-site VPN between the two. So let's get into it and see what's going on here. So I'm going to open up my management server. I'm already at the checkpoint management software, which is the smart console. So I've done a checkpoint video. If you haven't seen anything about checkpoint fundamentals, I'll put a card up here and I'm going to put a link in the description. Watch that. That's going to give you a brief overview of checkpoint and then come back to this. So we have our two gateways in. We have our management server here. We have our blades activated. Now, blades, like I said, are profiles and everything else. So think of blades as if you go to Fortinet or FortiGate firewalls and they have profiles, security profiles, stuff like that. Same thing. You go to Palo Alto, same thing, security profiles. You go to secure firewalls. It's the features that you can add, like IPS and malware and stuff like that. So it's the same thing. Again, Checkpoint was the OG. So they did it first and then everybody else followed suit. So don't disrespect Checkpoint. I know it's still out there in the wild, but I know a lot of people don't show Checkpoint love. Firewalls are firewalls, and if you're a tech person, you got to love all of it. So now we're going to go to what they do on Checkpoint for site-to-site VPNs, and they call them communities. So over on the side here, we have VPN communities. Now these communities, there are two. There's a star community, and then there's a mesh community. Now, when you're first learning site-to-site VPNs and you're coming from something else, this is going to be confusing, right? Because from a Fortinet, Cisco firewall, or secure firewall, or Palo, point-to-point site-to-site VPNs are pretty simple, right? There's no confusion on what a community is in that, right? So if you wanted to do a hub and spoke, you can do that, and you kind of logically see what a hub and spoke really looks like. Now on Checkpoint, because it's a star community or a mesh community, the first thing you're going to ask is what's the difference, right? And what do they actually do? So a star community is basically your hub and spoke. You have a hub, and then everything attaches to the hub. The mesh community is what you're going to use when you want to do a point-to-point, site-to-site VPN tunnel from one checkpoint to the next checkpoint. That's it. Now, technically, you could do a full mesh as well if you wanted to, but that was the first thing that confused the mess out of me when I first learned how to do this on a checkpoint firewall. So if we double click in here, as you can see, this is how you set it up. Now, there's another secret here is when you're using checkpoint to checkpoint, there's no pre-shared key that you need to actually put in, right? Kind of auto does it behind the scenes. The shared secret is for non-checkpoint devices. So as you can see, I'm adding checkpoint 1 and 2. Here's encrypted traffic. I can accept all encrypted traffic, but I didn't check that. Here's my phase 1 and phase 2s that I'm using. Now I'm using ICAV1 for ICAV4, ICAV2 for IPv6. Now I could technically go in here and just say prefer ICAV2 and support ICAV1, which I'm going to do because ICAV2 is better than ICAV1 because it has some underlying things underneath the scenes. It's a lot quicker to negotiate. Now we're just using our phase 1 algorithms and our phase 2 algorithms, and then I'm doing perfect forward secrecy to run the Diffie-Hellman group again, so I can get different key material from that's different from the key material that I got from phase 1. But the one thing I'm going to check here is I did it real quick and I didn't realize I was using group 2, which is highly deprecated. So I'm going to do group 14 for both, and then by perfect shared secrecy, I'm going to do 14 again. Now I probably could come in here and really get, you know what, let's do this now. So I'm going to change my SHA algorithms or my integrity algorithms. All right, this is hashing, from VPN, encryption, hashing algorithms to make sure data hasn't been modified or anything like that. We're going to make it stronger on this one. Tunnel management, we got one VPN tunnel per gateway pair. That's what I just picked. Normally it comes in at I believe it's subnet pairs to default. Make sure my encryption did not change. We're not excluding any services. Now here's the share secret. As you can see, it is grayed out. Actually I could if I wanted to, but I'm just going to leave it the way it is. But this is for external members. As you say, if I click this, the checkpoint technically is not an external member, but it is what it is. I'm not going to bypass firewall rules and none in the advance. Okay. And obviously, the thing I did in advance is disable the NAT inside the VPN community. This is your basically no NAT or twice NAT if you're coming from Cisco world, stuff like that. So we hit OK. Now I'm going to publish this real quick. I'm not going to push it just yet because I want to show you the security policy. So from a security policy standpoint, we're going to go to policy. And what I want to show you is how they do it in Checkpoint, a little bit different. So here's our secure firewall rule. I just call it site-to-site VPN rule. I'm going to allow, it's bi-directional, so I'm going to allow site 1 LAN to site 2, or sourcing from site 1 or site 2, going to site 1 or site 2. Now, when you want to send that traffic through the VPN tunnel, you actually have to select the VPN tunnel here. As you can see how this VPN section says any technically. This one, I'm saying go through this specific VPN community to allow this rule to happen, right? For any of the services, I'm going to accept it, and then I'm going to push it to the 2 checkpoint gateways. Now, when I first did this, I did not turn off anti-spoofing, which is turned on by default, and the traffic was getting dropped for some odd reason, obviously because of anti-spoofing. But what I did is turned it off, and then this obviously started working. And then again, you can see your VPN tunnels if you want to, or your VPN communities if you want to go here. If you want to see more detail in the communities, once I push this, we can start talking about how you see more stuff. So now let's go to install the policy here. We're going to install our policy, let it do what it do. We'll hit the details here, so we just make sure it goes through, make sure nothing breaks. Now, depending on how many firewalls you got, you may run into an issue, but this went through perfectly fine. I know the warnings because I don't really technically have licensing on here, so it's going to tell me about licensing. And then we have our log files here. And then if I want to look for more details, I can open up the external app for looking at the tunnel, and we'll get to that first. But let's just do our generic logs here. So far, we got some logs. So now I'm going to slide this over to the side. I'm going to open up this tunnel of this one machine over here. And we're going to try to attempt to ping the other side. Now this is IP. Let's do IP config first so you can see. This is 192.168.1.1. So I'm going to ping 2.1, which is on the other side. And there you go. VPN tunnel is up. I can ping the other side. And if I this way, you can see it's bi-directional. So my rules and the VPN is up and running. Now from a checkpoint standpoint, back in the logs here. So let me just refresh it. As you can see, here is the entire flow here, and you can tell the difference. Now, Checkpoint is really good at logging, so you can really tell the difference, like what's happening here, encrypting. This is the negotiation steps, stuff like that. And then here's a firewall rule. But anything that we want to, let's say we wanted to use a blade here. We wanted to see it by a specific blade, this is the cool thing about Checkpoint. What I would do is hit top blade, and I would just go VPN, or I could just do it in the search query up here as the VPN blade, right? And it'll tell you every rule associated with the VPN, right? Every rule. So as you can see, I got the initial, this one here, if I double clicked it, this would be, me pinging from one side to the other. So this is me pinging from site 1 to site 2. As you can see, this gives you the VPN details. So if I hit more, it's going to show you like the encryption algorithms I'm using, the hashing algorithm or integrity algorithms I'm using, the PFS group I'm using, Diffie Hellman groups, all that kind of stuff. It gives you a lot of detail in here. And then it tells you the type of traffic source. So this is why I say you can't really hate on Checkpoint, because Checkpoint is still a good firewall. It still does a lot of stuff that other firewalls don't do. And it's very easy to read once you learn once you learn the logic of a Checkpoint firewall, just like everything else. Once you learn the logic, it's easy to read. But once you learn it on Checkpoint, again, if you learn it on FortiGate, you learn on Palo, you learn on Cisco Secure Firewall, once you learn it at one firewall, it's pretty much easy to learn this on other firewalls as well. Always remember that. You learn it one next generation firewall, you pretty much learn off. It's really about how do they do it in their platform. So now we're going to unclick the logs here, and I'm going to go back to the VPN community here, and I'm going to open up the specific tunnel app for VPNs and traffic and stuff like that. Hopefully I actually clicked it. There we go. I might have clicked it twice, so now it's going to show up twice here. See the other one. Error message saying you have to, look like close one. So anyway, here is the Smart View Monitor, which comes with the Smart Console. So this gives you more detail, because remember, the Smart Console is really for applying policy. It's not really that great at the logging function outside of what you just saw from a log. You can get everything in there, but when you want to drill down and get specific logs, it opens up another thing. So that's the one thing I would say I don't really like, is the fact that I have to open up another application to view, like really get down into the details of a certain thing. It opens up another application. But again, once you learn the logic and know, oh, it's going to open up another application, you kind of get over it. But if it was me, I technically would just keep it into the Smart Console. So if I went to VPN, here's my VPNs. It shows all of this stuff that my VPNs are up. If I wanted to see some more detail on the VPN, you would see it's in wait right now. And then after it comes out of wait, it will start. Nothing's really going right now. So let me slide this to the side and start doing a continuous ping. And then we'll see the counters go up. So as that's going, slide this back over here. And as you can see, the counters are now going up, right? And this is live action. The counters are going up. So as this is, again, why I think they're opening up different programs, because it gives you a lot more detail and you can actually see like, okay, I see data actually going through this one VPN. So let's cancel this now because I don't want to just do this forever. And then eventually, after a while, you can see that it was 64 before, it ended up going down eventually, right? And then we have our tunnels per gate. You technically set the gateway here, but that's a tunnel per gateway. So I'm only looking at, I picked gateway 1, so it's going to show you, hey, it's from gateway 1 to gateway 2. The status is up. Here's the peer ID, the whole 9-9er. Now the peer ID is going to be a little different because I'm using that management on the other side. So that's why you see an RC 1918, but that's really all it is. And then if you want to see like permanent tunnels, now I don't have a permanent tunnel. I don't have, let's see, tunnel per community. So here's my community here. This data this always gives me some wonky no data here, but I know there's a community for there's a tunnel for this community, so I'm not really sure why this is saying no data, but I've seen some wonky things happen within certain blades. And then obviously if I pick for 2, it shows me phase 1 is up, the whole 9 now. Phase 1 is up right now, but I'm not sending any traffic. And that's how you, and then when I want to get rid of this, you just exit out and you go back to your regular smart console and you manage your blades, or you manage your firewalls from there. Let's get back out of this and let's review what we just did. All right, so that was how to do a checkpoint site-to-site VPN using the mesh community. Now, I didn't really go too deep into this. It's kind of an overview of that. There's more things that you can do, but that was kind of preliminary step of at least how to get the tunnel up and running. As with every firewall, you can get real crazy with the features and things you can block and things you can allow, but I wanted to give you at least a foundation, and then you take that foundation and then you see what you can break and see what you can fix. That's the whole point of this channel. Give you enough to whet your appetite so you can go down the rabbit hole with whatever technology that you want to explore. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it was informative. If you got some value from this and you haven't done it already, like I said, please don't forget to share, comment, like, and subscribe, because you really need to be on the lookout for this vibe coding video that I'm going to do, at least explaining my experience with vibe coding. But I have plenty other videos on all kind of other technology that if you want to learn it, definitely subscribe to the channel will help you. This is Don from Powerlock Technologies again. Thank you and have a nice day.